Hello everybody, welcome back to another tier list. Today we are doing my favorite video game franchise of all time, Mortal Kombat. Even though I'm more known as a Mortal Kombat Deception speedrunner, I've also played a bit of Armageddon and Deadly Alliance doing speedruns. I've also done a Deadly Alliance fan-made promo video, which I thought was really fun, as well as one for Deception. But today we're going to be but talking about each game in the series, only the mainline ones though, and like the main console spin-offs, as well as the two mobile games, which I really don't have a whole lot to say. In fact, I'm actually going to add a row below it and just put in mobile games because I haven't played either of them and I don't plan on it. So we're gonna go through them all. I'm not gonna give exact like specifications of like which one are like my favorite, second favorite, third favorite, etc. Because I do kind of want to do a video based on that later down the line, similar to something like Son of Jazzy did. I have a lot of it recorded, and I'm just contemplating on how I want to structure the video. So one day that'll probably come out. But today I want to talk about just my general thought process of the series. The only one that I am going to talk about as my favorite, though, is Deception. It's what I'm known for. It's my favorite game of all time. And it's if you know me from speedrunning, you know that this was the easiest slot here. Just last week, I was able to beat Conquest in under 2 hours. Which, if you're watching this the day that this video releases, tomorrow on Wednesday, I'm going to be doing another stream doing it again because of audio glitches with the run. Unfortunately, I've decided to remove my run from the leaderboard due to the fact that there is audio issues. Namely, there's no game audio the entire time. So be sure to watch out for that on my Twitch channel, link in the description. But with Deception, it's not a perfect game, but it is a game that I grew up playing all my life, like since it came out. And like the Conquest mode is phenomenal. Like I wish Mortal Kombat games would do stuff like this again. They kind of tried to in MK1 with the invasions mode, but like it isn't close to it at all. It's kind of like a really like discount version of Mario Party and Chess Combat and Conquest mode. Like it's a mixture of a bunch of garbage, but it's nothing like Deception's Conquest mode. And just the roster itself was really solid. I feel like a lot of people underestimate just how fun the game was because it relied a lot more on new characters. Like Hotaru, Havoc, Cobra, Kira, like those are phenomenal characters. Especially Hotaru and Havoc, probably two of my favorite Mortal Kombat characters of all time. And the fact that they're polar opposites, similar to something like Scorpion and Sub-Zero, that it allows a lot more creative choices to be able to be made about the game than if you're relying on the same roster like modern games do. And I think Deception captured all of that very, very well. And it's still a solid fighter even to this day. Like it's not the most balanced. It has a lot of bugs and stuff that make it kind of a broken game. But I feel like that's what makes a lot of competitive fighters a lot of fun, is when there's things to exploit and strategies that make it required to have a certain skill set to play it. Speaking of skill sets though, Mortal Kombat, the original, I feel disgraceful putting it anywhere lower because there is no strategy to it. It's a very basic fighter. But without Mortal Kombat 1, where would we be in fighting games? Where would we be in gaming in general? Because this is one of the most historic, like history making, trend setting. Like it has so many different reasons as to why it's one of the most important video games of all time. Stuff with like Mortal Monday, it coming out on consoles, and then ESRB being made. Like there was a lot of factors that the original Mortal Kombat, if it wasn't around, likely never would have happened and could have made gaming a completely different landscape than it is today. With that being said, though, it's really tame compared to standards today. And even back then, I mean, like it had a lot of like decapitation stuff, but other than that, like Smash TV, Total Carnage, stuff like that was arguably worse when it came to the gore. But that doesn't stop Mortal Kombat from being a really fun game just to play out of boredom with your friends and stuff, just kind of screw around with, because there is a lot of fun that you can have even with the rudimentary gameplay that the game has. Plus, it also set up for a lot of phenomenal titles to come. Mortal Kombat 2, I'm also gonna put in B tier just for the fact that I'm not a big fan of the difficulty in the game. I feel like it's a little bit too difficult and relies you to kind of play a bit like cheesy in order to get anywhere. It is still a lot of fun. I still love playing it, especially if you're playing like against an actual person. It can be a genuine blast to play. But it still has its faults, and that comes with the arcade mode, which is typically what you'd be playing a Mortal Kombat game. And it just kind of lacks in that. The characters are great. Baraka is one of my favorite Mortal Kombat characters of all time, especially from Deception. But, you know, that's where he got his start. You know, the female ninjas. Like, there's a lot of phenomenal characters that came out of MK2. But the game is just a little bit too difficult for me, and it makes it less fun to play casually on like by myself than just about any other Mortal Kombat game. Mortal Kombat 3 original, I'm gonna put in A tier. Oh, MK3 is another one of my favorite games of all time. It's definitely the best of the original arcade trilogy, or really just all the arcade games, including 4. But original MK3 was a bit more of a basic game compared to UMK3, which I might as well talk about as well. I'm putting it in S tier. It's just kind of a more simple version of UMK3, and UMK3 had a lot more characters. It had just a more refined combat system, and it's just genuinely a lot more fun to play. Like, if I had the choice between the two, easily UMK3. In fact, I'd probably even pick like MK2 if I'm playing against like other people. Like during game night, oh, you know, let's play some Mortal Kombat. We have like the original like 4 games in arcade, whatever, you know, like which one are we gonna play? MK2 over MK3, but again, this is all just kind of casual sense. So I would probably go with MK3 over that. Plus, also, I love, you know, specifically like Robot Sector, not Sector, Smoke, and the fact that he's a hidden character in it just kind of bumps it up a little bit more for me. Going on to Trilogy, I'm going to also put it in S tier depending on the console, because, you know, everyone knows each version of Trilogy is all really different. I prefer the PS1 version, even though the load times are really bad on it. It's just essentially a much more refined version of UMK3. Plus, it has a bunch of extra characters. The PS1 version also has a MK1 version of Kano, MK2 version of Jax, and MK1 version of Raiden. So there's extra content there that's not available on other consoles. Plus, it's the first time we've seen characters from like previous games in their same design, I guess. Then there's also Goro and Kitaro as well from MK1 and MK2, which just kind of round out the roster really well as, you know, just a fun, not monotonous, but like just a fun, simple beat 'em up where you can pick a character that's really overpowered and just kind of mess around. But you can also do a lot of cool tricks and combos and stuff that, you know, aren't available in previous titles with those returning characters, you know? And it was a really cool concept that hadn't really been seen. It had multiple versions of Jax and and Kano as well. There was MK1 and MK3 Kano. There was MK2 and MK3 Jax. I don't believe you could play as both versions. I think you only could pick between one, and both player one and player two had to play either one. But had to play the same one. If they wanted to play like Kano, they either had to play both had to play MK1 or both had to play MK3. That doesn't change how fun the game is though. Mythology Sub-Zero, it's a really difficult game. And I really haven't played the like full game. Like I've played like bits and pieces of it. So I feel wrong putting it really low, but I also feel wrong putting it any higher than C tier. This was the first like spin-off title in Mortal Kombat history. It was released on PS1 and N64, and it flopped. It was not a very good game. It was a side-scrolling platformer, but also a beat 'em up, and it failed at being both. Which is, I guess I could put it down in C tier. I should put it in F tier, but I feel like there definitely is worse than Mythologies, like a lot worse, and we're gonna be getting to it very soon. But I didn't think Mythologies was all that horrific. Like, it definitely has many faults and unforgivable flaws, but it's still not the absolute dirt worst game you could play, especially in the MK series, because there definitely is some stinkers in the series. And I don't think Mythologies is the worst of them all. MK4, definitely the worst of the arcade games. And I am going to put it in C tier. I feel like it, going from Ultimate MK3 to MK4, the game kind of lost a lot of its identity because everyone plays the same except for their special moves are all different. But every dial-up combo is the same. So everyone's basic game plan is going to be identical for one another. And it just kind of makes the game really tough to play because you don't feel like you're playing anyone other than one character. Like Liu Kang is going to play similar to Reiko, just like how Sub-Zero is going to play almost identical to Raiden. It's like most characters are all the same strategy. And it just kind of makes it a lot less enjoyable of a title, especially on the arcade. Going into Special Forces, I mean, obviously F tier. I think everyone's kind of said their piece about Special Forces. I still don't think it's the absolute worst, but it definitely doesn't belong anywhere other than F tier. I think if anything, it's probably the top of F tier, which means I think that there's definitely games worse than MK Special Forces. And I actually think I have played Mortal Kombat Online when it like first came out during like early MKX. And it is really bad. I will say it is quite terrible. So like if I were included, because I haven't played Onslaught, I didn't even know that the game was out. I thought it was like still in development and they were still like teasers and stuff coming out. But like the one I have played, definitely like probably the absolute worst MK game. It's pretty much just tap the screen and hope you win type of thing, and it's just not very fun. But Special Forces, it's a generic beat 'em up game starring Jax. I played a little bit of it, like I said, for the big like list video I want to do, and I thought it was okay. Like I think its gameplay is honestly better than Mythologies. Like I think it's like difficulty is a lot better. But you know what? Actually, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm actually gonna flip these two. Special Forces is definitely better than Mythologies. I think I can actually say that now I'm really thinking about it. While Mythologies fails is the fact that it tries to be too different from the original format. Whereas Special Forces, at least a little bit that I played, is still kind of at the root still a fighting game, even though it is in like a top-down beat 'em up style. At least for like the first level. I really haven't played farther than that. Combos are still there, special moves are there. There's an inventory system, which is all pretty neat. It kind of is an improvement in all like cases compared to mythologies. Like I think every single aspect of the game is improved from mythologies, except for maybe in like voice acting, or in mythologies case, actual acting. I do think that the like cutscenes in Special Forces are a little hokey, but that's also to be expected from like early to mid PS1 days. That it just wasn't going to be all that good, I should say. Going into the 3D era, I gotta say I don't really care for Deadly Alliance. I think that of the trilogy on PS2, Deadly Alliance is the worst of them by a long shot. I always felt like buttons really stuck and stuff. Like that's why I originally made that fan made promo, whatever, like the kind of mocking it cut commercial, because it was a lot of the frustrations I had with the game. I think that the game is way more flawed than Deception. I feel like Deception cleaned up a lot of the mechanical quirks that Deadly Alliance had that made it honestly really unenjoyable to play. With that being said, Deadly Alliance is still a really fun game. I really like the stance moves and stuff, like the counter, the impale, like stuff like that. Like that, I thought that was a really cool concept. I wish they would have kept it in Deception, because I feel like they definitely could have had a lot of interesting things happen with that, with new characters like Havoc's Morningstar. I think could have had a really cool impact. And it also started the Conquest mode, and Conquest is great. Sure, it's literally just text boxes in between training missions, but when you kind of boil Deception's Conquest mode down to like its absolute core, that's pretty much what it is. It's just running around from text box to text box between training missions. But Deadly Alliances was a bit more boring just for the fact that it was so basic. But Deadly Alliance definitely was a huge step forward for the series, and I can't say that I don't like the game, because I do like it. I do like the Deadly Alliance. I don't think it's the best of the trilogy on PS2, but it definitely is still a phenomenal title. Speaking of phenomenal titles, Shaolin Monks. I don't think there's really anything I could say to truly describe how phenomenal this game is. Definitely the greatest open. Not really. It kind of is open world. Like when you think about it, like you can travel from like the Wuxi Academy to the portal to Shao Kahn's arena to back over to the Wuxi Academy, like stuff like that. Like you can definitely travel the open world a bit. It's just not the open world you're used to from like modern titles. That and the combo system is super intuitive, super easy to use, super fun. The special moves are there, and it works in the similar way as mythologies, where you have to unlock them, but it's done in a lot easier of a way compared to mythologies, because it kind of just happens, and there's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to most of it. Whereas Shaolin Monks is very purposeful with everything it does. And there's a reason why everyone's like, we need like a Fire and Ice, which was teased many years ago. But we definitely need something for Shaolin Monks, whether it be a remaster or, a sequel, something like that. It definitely needs something. And hopefully one day we get it, but I honestly wouldn't hold my breath. Next up, we have Armageddon. Again, another phenomenal game. And I think, again, it improves on a lot of what Deception did, but I don't know. I just don't have as great of a connection with Armageddon. I think removing the second fighting style kind of ruined it a little bit for me, because Deception felt a lot more unique with each character. Like I felt like every person would play a character differently. Whereas in Armageddon, you either are playing hand to hand or you're playing, your weapon. And for most characters, your hand to hand really sucked. Whereas Deception, everyone had at least one decent hand to hand, or at least one enjoyable hand to hand, and then their weapon stance was whatever. Most times it was decent, unless you were like Havoc. Like everyone's weapon stance was at least decent to use in a casual way. Whereas Armageddon, everyone either feels somewhat similar with their weapon or are completely identical to someone else with their weapon. Namely, like Tanya, Jax, and Striker, I think. I think Striker also has the Tonfas. But there's a handful of other characters that are similar to that. But, that's not to say that, other games didn't do that. Deception had the exact same thing with Tanya and Jax in Unchained. But it just felt like Armageddon kind of had a lot of things missing, especially like the fact that there were hand-to-hand styles that they removed from previous games in the Creative Fighter. Like Crab's not there, for example. And Creative Fighter is awesome. That's one of the main reasons why it's S tier. If it wasn't for Creative Fighter, it would probably be A tier, if not even B tier. Because Creative Fighter is so much fun to do and tinker around with and mess around with that, like, it's one of the reasons why I play Armageddon more than most games lately. Just because it's fun to go around and mess with the Creative Fighter, make some, like, really broken, like, old lady or something. And just go toy around with her in arcade mode or something, Next up, we have DC, F tier. I don't think I really need to say anything else about this. I think that MK vs. DCU is not a good game. I actually bought it on 360 for that video I was talking about, and I've actually started to play it again just out of curiosity. And I've been playing combo trials, and I just I get why people don't like the game. I definitely don't think it's as bad as everyone's saying it is. It definitely is the worst mainline. It is actually not the worst mainline game. We're going to get to that later. But it's definitely the second worst mainline Mortal Kombat game in history. And there's a reason for that. The teen rating kind of ruined it a bit. The combos are definitely fun to use. I mean, like, I definitely haven't, like, felt like I was cheated out of combos, like, in Deadly Alliance because, I gotta hit a button at, like, the perfect timing in order for the combo to continue. I didn't feel like everyone plays the same like an MK4. I didn't even feel like everyone was gypped out of something that they really needed, like an Armageddon. But just the way that the game plays compared to previous titles and even future titles, the game just isn't as good. And the fatalities and the heroic brutalities are the main reason why this game sucks so hard. Going on to Mortal Kombat 9, Mortal Kombat 2011. My initial thought on this was definitely a lot worse. I will say before, like couple months ago, I would say MK9 was one of my least favorite games of all time, and definitely like my least favorite Mortal Kombat game. And that's just because the game is really a little bit too fast for me. It still is, but after replaying it, like a couple months ago, I've learned that, it just was the fact that I was a little kid, not really a little kid, but I was definitely a kid when this game was out and new and relevant. Like I was 9, no, I was about 8 or 9 when this game came out, so I definitely didn't understand complex combos and stuff. And like now that I do, I can see why this game is so popular because there definitely is a lot of fun to it. I love playing like Rain specifically. Rain and Smoke are definitely my two favorites. And it's because they are so like dynamic in their combos and stuff. Like the game is just got so much unique like movement to it that no other fighting game really has. The only complaint I really have with the combo system is I don't like the running mechanic. I think that the way that the running works is really weird and just kind of feels difficult to master. Like I still haven't even mastered it, and I played it for like 2 weeks straight. Like playing almost nothing but MK9, and I still couldn't get down the running mechanic. And that's not to say the game's bad because of it. It's just a little weird because of it. Speaking of a little weird because of the running mechanic, MKX I'm also going to put in A tier. I had a similar statement with MKX back then. MKX still wasn't my favorite going into when it was new in 2015. But looking back at it now, I'm playing it more with like an open mindset and more of a modern mindset. It definitely isn't as bad as you would think. But with that being said, also the run mechanic is also again really weird because you have to like hold an extra button in order to run while you're trying to do a dash. And it just makes setting up combos a little bit more difficult than it would in like Deception, Armageddon, MK11 or MK1. Like it, and even in first DC, like it's the same thing as like their running is tied to extending combos and like to like super high tech combos and stuff. Require the canceling from running, and it just feels a little bit too like not. I'm trying to think of the exact word for it, but it's like having to do too much for it to matter, I guess, or for it to be worth it, especially in a casual sense. In a competitive sense, do whatever you need to win. But trying to pull off like super like flashy combos and stuff is really difficult in both of these games because of the fact that the run mechanic is just kind of difficult to function. MK11, I feel like this is going to be a hot take. I think MK11 is S tier. And nobody ever believes me when I say this because they don't play the 3D era as much as me, or if at all. MK11 plays more like the 3D era games than any other game made by NetherRealm. Or even like the Dying Days of Midway and Verse DC. Nothing has come close to the gameplay of Deception, Armageddon, and Deadly Alliance than MK11 has. It is about the same speed as the games. Combos still feel the same. Like it aligns so much with the 3D era in terms of gameplay. This is one of my favorite Mortal Kombat games of all time. I think that it's definitely up there. And it's 100% the best NetherRealm Mortal Kombat. I will die on that hill. The story sucked. I will definitely give you that. The story was god awful. But so was the story in MKX. I didn't care for the story. I thought the comics was a much more enjoyable story than the game itself. And MK9 was the retelling of MK1, 2, and 3. But MKX's story was okay. Combat Kids suck. And they still suck in MK11, but they're not as prevalent, which automatically gives it a plus on MKX. Melina's not in the first part of the story. Instead, we would get her in Aftermath, and so Ed Boon could shut Melina Stands up. And she was actually fun in this game. I gotta say, I actually enjoyed playing Melina in MK11. She wasn't very good, but she was definitely fun. And just the general like the public outbursts of like hatred towards this game just kind of always baffled me because I love MK11. I think that of the games of like other than the 3D era, MK11 is the one I come back to the most and the most frequently because I still enjoy this game. It still has a great online presence on like it's at least on Xbox it does. I'm not sure about PC or PlayStation, and God knows what the Switch is like. But it's still a phenomenal game. The custom variations, I really wish would have came back in MK1, but it allowed for you to kind of play how you wanted. It allowed characters to be kind of somewhat unpredictable. Like sure, everyone kind of gravitated to the same like couple variation items, but when you could like throw someone off with like a unique pick, like a for example, like the cat pounces for Kotal Khan or something. Like you could hit him with something that they aren't expecting, then it could really work out in your favor. And I felt like that gave everyone a chance to win in MK11. And this was actually the one I was like the best at. Like I think that even like how much I played Deception and Armageddon, I would still get my ass kicked by people like Dayrax and stuff. if given the chance to play against them. But in MK11, I feel like I could do pretty decently against even like pro players like Sonic Fox and stuff. Like I feel like I could genuinely do pretty decent against them. On to the most recent game. I'm putting it straight down in F tier. This game sucks my nuts. Uh this is the worst Mortal Kombat game of all time. Definitely after, I said this at the end of Chaos Reigns when I did that Let's Play, that MK1 is definitely one of my least favorite Mortal Kombat games. It definitely is. It probably is my least favorite Mortal Kombat game, in terms of just the gameplay and quality. Going into the item shop format, I hate it. MK11 had that, but it wasn't as egregious or as forceful as MK1. Like there wasn't exclusive content to the item shop. It was pretty much just like content you could get through Towers of Time and stuff like that. Available also for Dragon Crystals and stuff, or Premium Currency, whatever it was called. I know it's Dragon Crystals in MK1, but like it having exclusive skins to it, just it felt very cheap and scammy. But that's also just how modern gaming is, so I can't really be too upset about it. Like I should be. I definitely think that it fell victim to a trope that games like Fortnite have popularized, and I really wish gaming would get away from. But that'll never happen, unfortunately, no matter how much I want it to. And that's not even the gameplay of it. Gameplay is not that great. Like it's okay. Again, it's like DC, MK versus DC. It's just it's okay. Things feel very like floaty. Like moves feel like they hit very slowly compared to other titles. And sure, MK11 had that too, and I was just glazing it for it. But everything kind of felt a bit off. Things either feel like they're going too fast or too slow. Some characters just don't fit in. Like Havoc. Havoc plays the game way too differently compared to everyone else, and it just kind of makes them very unfun to play. Given the fact that Havoc is one of the coolest characters in Mortal Kombat, and the way that they have his design would be perfect for like MK11. Like if he were to just be dropped in at MK11 from MK1, he would do phenomenal there. But the way that he is in MK1 compared to the entire rest of the roster, he doesn't belong, and it makes it really hard to play as him. I think he's decent now. I honestly have no idea. I don't keep up with the game. And then I've also made my stance clear on guest fighters. I think that it's scummy, it's a scam, it sucks, it's stupid. And like the guest characters on this made no sense to me. It felt like I was getting 3 of the same characters in Peacemaker, Omni-Man, and Homelander. And because they all just kind of looked the same. Like, not exactly. I'm not saying that they all exactly look the same, but they definitely all, like, their base design of, like, the anti-hero who hates everyone is super cynical. It's the same thing 3 times. It's just, it makes no sense to me. The only reason why they did it is because, again, tie-ins make money. Thanks, Fortnite. But, and then a Conan the Barbarian, the T-1000, like, the fuck? Like, that makes no sense. And I think there's a new Conan coming out, and then there was also something to do with Terminator, and then there's a new Scream that came out. So I guess, yeah, sure, it makes sense, oh, cash grabs. Cash grabs make money. Obviously, it's a cash grab. But it hurts as a Mortal Kombat fan seeing, 6 roster members being added, but half of them aren't even Mortal Kombat characters. Like, instead of Ghostface, we could have actually gotten Cobra and Kira in the game. Why not do that? Instead of the T-1000, we could have gotten Cabal. Instead of Conan, we could have gotten Taven. Like we could have gotten like something interesting out of it. We could have gotten Onaga into the game or something, like some kind of reference to other titles. But instead we just get references from either cheap cameo fighters that you can't even play as and classify it as 3D representation, or we get guest fighters that play like a 3D era character. It's unfair to 3D era fans. Like, sure, we got Lee Mei in the game and Kenshi, but like Kenshi's been one of their face characters ever since MK9, when the few 3D era fans that like were actual vocal about it were so excited about Kenshi and MK9. Like ever since then, he's been like their poster child, and there definitely could have been better. And then again, we also have Havoc and Natara, but then we had Megan Fox voice Natara, and she sucks my ass at voice acting. Genuinely the worst voice acting performance I've ever seen in my life. I could have voiced Natara better. And I actually thought about doing something like that as a joke, like redubbing Natara as myself, just to prove I could do better. Like, it's genuinely that bad. Like, that's how much I hate Megan Fox's Natara. Like, she's fun to play as, but it's just the voice acting is horrific. The stories of all the characters, like Darius and specifically Havoc becoming a person from Sato, makes absolutely no sense. You pretty much just remove Chaos Realm from the world. And that was what made those two realms make sense, was the fact that they couldn't exist without one another. But now you're forcing them to. And to me, that just, it makes it too difficult to make it coherent as to why Havoc is who he is. I think the way that they explained it was really poorly in bios and stuff. And if you didn't read the bios, you have no idea why he is who he is, and you don't know that he's not from Chaos Realm. And it ruins the character design, and it genuinely upsets me as a Mortal Kombat fan seeing characters that aren't your mainstays, like your Melina, Katana, and stuff like that, your Scorpions and Sub-Zeros, to not be like, to just watch them all just get butchered. And even then, Scorpion being Kuai Liang and Melina, first off, Tarka, whatever the disease is to make them Tarkatans is beyond stupid. And it's a retcon that didn't need to happen, and MK1 just kind of ruined the storytelling of Mortal Kombat forever. And all because they couldn't write a way to actually incorporate Onaga and Havoc into the storyline for MK11 off of the MKX comic. If we would have went off that comic, MK11's story would have been phenomenal. We would have gotten Onaga in there, we would have gotten Havoc in there, Goro would have been another character to return. Like, we would have had a lot of really interesting characters return to the series, but instead we decided to do some shill timeline reset and then have a really awful timeline retcon fest in the next game. Like, it just, MK1 is, I have my opinions on it, and I've gone on about the game for like 10 minutes now. And I'm gonna just stop. I'm gonna just stop and just say, here's my final rankings for the games. As you can see, I definitely, other than MK1, which genuinely could probably be in a tier by itself, the rest of the games are all have their own merits. Like, even though I have negative opinions about, MK4, Mythologies, DC, and Special Forces, I still think that they're decent games. Like, they're still playable. Like, you're not gonna torture yourself by playing it. And even then, with MK1, my issues with it are in its storytelling and its character design. I think the gameplay is okay. Like, I don't think that it's the worst. I think you could definitely play worse fighting games. But it fails in just about every other avenue that makes it super predatory and disrespectful to true fans of the series. So even at its worst, it's just a cash grab, and at its best, it is some of the most smooth fighting game experiences you can possibly have. that is going to be all for this tier list. I've made references to a bunch of stuff there. It's all going to be links to the description, as well as the original sub 2 hour Deception Conquest run. Again, check out Twitch and follow, get notifications for when I go live on Wednesday to do more Deception runs, because we're looking for another sub 2 hour. Hopefully, it breaks world record. Even the sub 2 hour I didn't beat the world record by in-game time, because Zemu, the emulator that we allow for Conquest, loads so fast it even beats a 360. So even at its fastest, my current load time removed PB is still was still better than my sub 2 hour run, which is baffling. But we're looking to change that tomorrow on Wednesday. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. I hope you all have a wonderful day.